Hello everyone, welcome to Sew Lovely with Grace. I'm Grace and today I'm going to be doing a sew along. This has been a much requested sew along of this pattern, Kwik Sew 3691. I've made this about 3 times, and the one that the model's wearing, the yellow one, is the one I've made twice, and I'm also, for this third one, I'm going to make the same one, only I'm going to make it the length of this view without the collar. So previously I made it out of this crepe de chine fabric that I got at Joann's. It worked out very well. I've modeled this in a previous video. And I also made it out of this silky polyester challis fabric. And notice the little tucks in the front. That's the beauty of this pattern. And then this one is a crepe de chine that I'll model for you at the end of the sew along. So let's talk about this pattern. It is a Kwik Sew pattern, which, as you know, they're out of print. That's why I emphasize when there's a sale on patterns to buy them, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future if they stop printing them, because they did that with Kwik Sew. But anyways, this calls for, let's see, what kind of fabrics? Well, I use the crepe challis, silk-like fabrics, georgette, rayon, blends, and cotton types. The crepes, the challis, they worked for me, and they worked out very well for this. Now, if you can't get a hold of this, this is on Etsy and Amazon. It's $11.95, that's what I've seen. If you really like the pattern, this is one of my top patterns. The reason being is it's very simple. It's very quick. You could do it in a day, and it's just a basic, and I really like it. And it doesn't have an open closure in the back, so you could slip it on over your head, wear it under a jacket. You can wear it with shorts. I'm going to model it for you with 2 different looks, and it's just a wonderful pattern. It's worth it for me to pay the extra money for this pattern. Now, if you don't want to do that, and I found an alternative that's very similar. And this one is available. This is New Look 6344. And if you do view A, it's almost identical. The difference is in this view A, there's 1 tuck on each side and then 1 straight down the middle. Whereas here, there's 2 tucks here and 1 in the middle. So it's just an extra tuck on this pattern. And the other difference is this comes in the pattern armhole binding pieces, so there's extra pieces actually, 2 for each armhole and 1 for the neck, or 2 for the neckline. So that's extra, whereas this one's even simpler. You use bias tape, a 1/2 inch wide single fold bias tape to finish the armholes and the neckline. But I wanted to offer that as an alternative, because if you can't get the Kwik Sew pattern, you could always get the New Look and achieve the same look that I did. Now, the other difference between the 2 patterns is that the Kwik Sew pattern does not have an open closure in the back. It just slips on and off over your head, whereas the New Look pattern in view A has a button open closure in the back. It's very simple to put in, but it is a difference that I want you to be aware of. And lastly, when I had finished this top, I had extra fabric and I wanted to use it, so I decided to make a tie sash. And you'll see at the end of this video how it changes the look entirely. So come along with me to the cutting table and let's begin this sew along. So 3691, I'm going to make view B. And I love this pattern. I've made it multiple times, and what I love about it is for view B, for medium, it takes 1 yard of fabric. Love it. So I got this fabric. This is a Joann Fabrics crepe. Has nice drape to it, and I bought it in the clearance. I always go in the clearance at the end of the season, and they always have a steal. So I'm going to use this fabric. So I'm going to lay out my pieces and show you what's next. For view B, there are only 6 pattern pieces. So we're doing view B. We need the front, which is number 1, the back, number 2, front neckline facing, number 3, front back line facing, number 4, front armhole facing, number 5, and back armhole facing, number 6. So I have the pieces here because I've made this before. And what I do to preserve it, since I love this pattern, I iron sure tailored to the pattern. It gives it a little more substantial, you know, so it won't tear. And then I fold them up, press them, and put them back in the envelope, nice and easy. So I do have piece 1, the front here, which is cut on the fold. Piece 2, which is the back, cut on the fold. And then I have the facings. Piece 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now they're not laid out on the fabric yet, I just pulled them all out. So I'm going to lay them all out before I cut. So for view B, we have to accommodate for 2 fold lines. The fold line for pattern piece 2 and the fold line for pattern piece 1. So that means we have to fold the fabric so that it meets in the middle. And that's what I did here. As you can see, my fabric here has a fold at the top. It meets in the middle, and then there's a fold here on this side. All the pieces are laid out and marked, ready to be cut. So I have this piece, piece 2, the back cut on the fold, to cut on the fold. Then I have piece 1, the front to cut on the fold. There's also facing 3 cut on the fold and facing 4 cut on the fold. 6 and 5 are not. So I'm going to cut these now. What I love about this pattern is that it's only 1 page of instructions. The diagrams of both views, the layouts of the fabric, and then all the steps, all in 1 page. So for view B, that's what we're working with. I need to do steps 1, 2, 3, and 6 from view A. And then I jump back to view B. So step 1, interface the neckline facings, front and back, armhole facings, front and back, and they're all done here. I did that. I interfaced them all. And what I like to do with these pieces, as you can see, is I label them with a post-it note, so that keeps me organized. So these are all interfaced, and then I finish cutting the front and back pieces here. And what I started to do was step 2, to make the tucks. And I will show you that, how I made the tucks here. We're at step 2, making the tucks. So I'm going to illustrate this to you on the tissue paper because you can see the word tuck there. It's just easier. So for example, this one, I would fold this in to the tuck line, press, finger press, and getting a pin to pin that tuck in, to hold it. Then move on to the next tuck line. This is right side up. Press it in, fold it over, finger press, and pin the next one, like that. Then I would find the third tuck on the left, push that over, bring it to the line, finger press, and then pin that one. So that's how I did the tucks. This is just on the tissue paper with the words tuck, so you could see how that goes. And here it is on my fabric. I did all my tucks, and what I'm going to do next is bring it to the iron and just lightly press these so that when I go to sew them, it'll be easier on the machine. This step of ironing is not part of the instructions. I just do it for ease, just because it defines the tucks better. And so what I've done is I have this little Teflon sheet to protect because there are pins here, and I have everything pinned. I'm going to use this little iron. I just cover it up and I just do the very tops. I don't do the tucks all the way down. I don't want defined lines. I just want to preserve the tucks on top so when I bring it to the sewing machine to sew, it will be very easy. So what I did at this point was I removed the pins and replaced them with these binder clips because, of course, I don't want the sewing machine to go through the needles. So at this point, they're pressed lightly at the top, so they're defined. Now I can sew. So I'm going to bring the needle down and remove this binder clip. I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam from the side. Alright, remove this binder clip. Keep sewing to keep these tucks lined up. And I want to go slow because this is the front of your top. It's going to look. So that's a second tuck. Now the center tuck, I want to do it together. I want these two to join in the middle evenly. So let me get that. Got it. Remove the next binder clip. So much more easier to do it this way. And the last one. There. Alright. So that looks pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Step 3. Stitch front to back, right sides together at shoulder seams. Okay, so we're at the machine here, and we're using all 1/4 inch seam allowances in this project, unless otherwise indicated. And this is the second shoulder seam. Don't forget to backstitch. For view B, we jump to step 6. Pin front and back neckline facings right sides together at shoulder seams, matching notches and stitch. Overcast outer edges of facing. Here's my neckline facings, and I finger press the seams before I bring it over to the serger. Keep the seams open here. Here. Perfect. The next step is to pin the facing to the neckline, right sides together, matching center fronts, notches at center back, and shoulder seams. Stitch, we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, clip curved seam allowances. And for this step, I'm going to remove this from the machine to have the armhole fit here for my neckline and for my armholes. I pin the facing to the neckline here, and now I'm going to sew it. I don't know if I'm going to have the whole thing on video because it's pretty big, but I'll start it here. Neckline facing sewn, clip my seams. So the next step is understitch neckline seam to facing. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, so what is understitching? It's described in the instructions. It keeps your facing and bindings from rolling to the outside of the garment. What you do is you fold the seam allowance toward the facing and stitch on facing close to seam through facing and seam allowances. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to sew as close as I can get to the seam allowance here. So I'm understitching the facing to keep it from rolling when I wear it. And it gives it a nice, clean, professional finish. Understitching complete. Now the next step is fold facing to inside and press. Attach neckline facing to shoulder seam allowances. Okay. I actually like to do this stitch from the outside, so I'm going to sew right down the seam so I attach the facing to the shoulder. Put that in here. In the ditch. Attach the facings to both shoulder seams. Now I'm at step 9. Pin front to back, right sides together at side seam. Stitch, repeat for other side. Okay. Sewing the side seams using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitching. And I'm going to repeat for the other side. Now we're going to pin front armhole facings to back armhole facings, right sides together, and stitch shoulder seams and side seams. Overcast outer edges of facings. I have a serger, so I can do the overcast. If you don't have a serger, just do the zigzag stitch all the way around. And as you can see, I labeled these, number 5. These two are the front armhole facings, and then I have number 6, the back armhole facings, and I'm going to pin them now. I'm going to grab one front armhole facing, that's number 5, and one back armhole facing, number 6, and I'm going to turn it so that I can pin those shoulder seams together, right sides together. And just stick a couple of pins in there on each end, like so. Hopefully you can see that. Pretty simple. Do the same thing at the other end. I'm going to pin, and then pin the other one. So now we have to sew 1/4 inch seam on both ends. Back stitch, back stitch, I sewed both shoulder armhole facings and I finger pressed them open here. So this one's done, and I did the same thing for the other side. Now I'm going to go bring this to the serger and overcast the whole outside edge to finish it off. Like I said, if you don't have a serger, just use a zigzag on your sewing machine. I like to have my seams open when I'm stitching this, so take my time here, but it's important. I finished both armhole facings all the way around with my serger. So this one's done and this one's done. I did both. And now the next step is to pin armhole facings, the ones I finished, 2 armholes, right sides together, matching shoulder seams, side seams, and notches on front and back. Stitch, which I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam, clip curve seam allowances. And then after that, we're going to understitch the armhole seam allowances to the facing and fold facing to inside and press. Okay? When I pin a facing to an armhole, I always anchor it at the under the armhole at the bottom. So I put 1 pin in here to anchor it. Then I go to the notches. I go to the little notch, which is always the facing to the front of the garment. And I anchor it there with a pin. And then I go to the larger notch, which is the facing to the back of the garment. And I pin that there. And then I go and pin all the way around. So I'll do that on both sides right now. So to understitch, I'm going to sew the seam allowance to the facing. And what I like to do is to give it a nice little press before I do that. So when you go to the machine, it's a lot easier, a lot cleaner, and it comes out really neat. Give it a little press. And I'm going to go all the way around with both armholes. Now it's much easier to understitch the armholes. Okay, let's go. So I'm going to continue all the way around for both sides. Both armholes are understitched. I'm going to take them to the iron and give them a good press. Next, attach armhole facing to shoulder seams and side seams. Repeat for other armhole. The way I'm going to attach them is I'm just going to do a stitch in the ditch at the top on the shoulder and at the under armhole side seams. Last step is the hem. Overcast bottom edge, fold 1 inch hem to wrong side and press. Stitch close to edge of hem or hem with a blind hem foot. So I am going to do what this says. I'm not going to use the blind hem foot. I'm just going to use a 3.0 stitch length for my hem finish. I'm going to stitch my hem at a 3.0 stitch length. Well, I finished the top and I had some extra fabric here, and I'm going to sew 2 pieces of the fabric together to lengthen this, and I'm just going to make a tie sash, a simple sash. So I'll tie sew the 2 pieces together, then I'm going to fold these right sides together and then turn them just to have a little extra little accessory. Now that I have the two pieces joined together, I'm going to start here at the bottom corner, sew all the way up, then sew all the way across to the center. I'll leave a 2-inch opening for turning, and then I'm going to continue sewing all the way across to the other end. And then I'm going to have the 2-inch opening that I can turn and then close the seam. I did sew one end here, and now I'm going to sew the entire length of the sash. Sewing the other end here. And that's it. So I have the tie sash here, put it on the top. The top's a little longer, and I just think it gives it a little more elegance, a little more level of sophistication. I'm wearing these jeggings, they're jean leggings, with my absolute favorite cork shoe sandals. Love these. The wedge shoe is just comfortable, stylish, and I just like the cork look. So with this sash, it changes the look entirely. So I could wear it with the sash, cinch the waist, or I could wear it without the sash. It gives it another look, which is very comfy and flowy. And that's how I made the other two tops, only this one's a few inches longer. Another look I like is with these capri jeans, these little short capri jeans that I have on. I'm not wearing the sash, and I'm wearing with these little flat white sandals. I think that looks adorable. Okay, real casual look, real fun. And in this case with the sash, I'm going to use a sash again, only it's the way you tie it. I'm not going to tie it like the long, drapey, dramatic look. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to have a little side bow. So you just, tie it once, and then you just tie it in a little bow on the side, just to give it a little fun, a little cutesy. And there you go. How cute is that? Got a little side bow going on. It's casual. You're wearing the capri pants, and you're ready to go and have some fun. I love it. So that's why I really love this pattern. You can achieve so many different looks. You can make it shorter, longer. You could add a sash, and depending on how you tie the sash, you could make it long or short, a little bow, and get a whole different look. And most of all, this pattern is very easy to sew. And that was my first sew along, and I hope it helped you. I hope I was clear. I hope it was, step by step in order that you could follow, and I hope to do some more in the future. And lastly, about this pattern, New Look 6344. I would like you to go over to Chalisa's YouTube channel, So She Designs, because she made multiple views of this pattern, and she made one with lace that I absolutely adore, and I'm going to be doing a lace one in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this sew along. I hope it gave you some ideas, and most of all, I hope you were so inspired.